How's it going? I'm Dave and my channel is all about helping you create awesome neo-soul, R&B and other modern sounds on your guitar. If you're new here and that sounds like your kind of thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you click the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I release a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 30 different neo-soul and R&B chords you can use in your playing. And I'm also going to show you briefly how you can use them in your progressions. But I'm only going to really be touching the surface on how you can use them. If you really want to go deeper and learn how to create really advanced sounding chord progressions, head down to the description and grab my book, Chord Charisma. Let's get straight into the lesson. Let's take a look at the first chord of the 30 chords, and that's the major chord. Okay, very simple, a major chord. This is how you play a major chord. We're going to be playing everything with the root note of the 5th fret. So the major chord could be played as chord 1, chord 4, or chord 5 in your key. So in the key of C, chord 1 would be C, chord 4 would be F, and chord 5 would be G. This is how you play a major chord with the root note on the 6th string, with the root note on the 5th string. Great, let's move on to another type of major chord. I'm going to be doing this in sections, so it'll be major chords, minor chords, dominant chords, and more sections, okay? Just keeps things nice and organized. The next chord is a major 6 chord. So let's take a look at how to play a major 6 chord. The major 6 chord can also be used as chord 1, 4, and 5 in your key. So you could play a C major 6, F major 6, G major 6 in the key of C, for example. Now, I've made a video on how to use the major 6th in more ways, so if you want to check that out, then go ahead and do it. But this is how you play it. Root on the 6, and then root on the 5. There are, of course, other ways to play all of these chords, but I'm just showing you my go-to and favorite voicings for them. Let's move on to the next chord, chord 3, and that is the major 7 chord. Okay, major 7 chords are very popular in neo-soul and R&B, so it's definitely important that you know how to play them. I'm going to show you root 6, root 5, and root 4 shapes for all of these. And the major 7 chord can be used as chord 1 or chord 4 in your key. So, for example, using the key of C again, we could play C major 7, F major 7. Root 6. Root 5. And then root 4. Now, of course, there are a lot of chords to go over in this video, so I'm not going to be showing you or explaining how to play them. I'm hoping you can use the chord charts, pause the video, and learn them by looking at the chord charts. So let's move on to our next chord. Our next chord is the major 9 chord. The major 9 chord can be also used as chord 1 and chord 4 in your key. So let's take a look at how to play it with the root on the 6th string and the 5th string. Root 6, root 5. This is definitely one of my go-to chords. 9th chords in general, whether that's major or minor 9s, are very, very commonly used in neo-soul. So definitely worth learning these and prioritizing them. The next chord we're going to learn is the major 13 chord. Now, the major 13 chord also can be used as chord 1 or chord 4 in your key. So let's take a look at how to play it. Root 6, and then root 5. Okay, so let's take a look at some more major chords. We're going to take a look at the 6-9 chord now. So this is how you play it with the root note on the 6th string. It's quite a tricky shape with the root on the 6th string, I'm not going to lie. And then with the root on the 5th string, it's very, very similar. And the major 6-9 chord can be used as chord 1 or chord 4 in your key. Let's take a look at some more fruity chords. We're going to take a look at the major 6-9 sharp 11 chord. There are so many different uses for this chord. You can use it in lots of different ways. I've done a video explaining how to use this chord in a few different ways. And I've also dedicated an entire section of my book, Chord Charisma, to this one chord because it is so, so useful. And there's nothing online really showing you how to use this chord. I only found out about it through a keyboard tutorial and I had to translate it all onto guitar. So I've done the hard work for you here. So let's take a look at how to play it. Now, it fits as chord 4 in your key, so that's how you can use it diatonically, but of course, there are other options. Check out the video or grab my book. So here's how you play it. Root 6, and then the root 5 version. Chord 8 is the major 7 sharp 11 chord. Major 7 sharp 11 chord one of my favorite chords. Again, I've dedicated another section of my book entirely to this one chord. You can use it to do really cool key changes. You can use it to create reharmonizations and spice up your chord progressions over melodies. And of course, diatonically, you can use it as chord 4 in your key. Okay, so in the key of C, for example, we could play an F major 7 sharp 11. So let's take a look at the major 7 sharp 11 chord and how to play it. This is the root 6 version. And then the root 5 version. So those are all of the major kind of chords. Let's take a look at the minor chords now. We've of course got our standard minor chord. This can be played on chord 2, 3 or 6 in our key. So if we're playing in the key of C, you could play a D minor, an E minor or an A minor. Here's the root 6 version. And here's the root 5 version. Let's move on, the minor 6 chord. The minor 6 chord can only be used on chord 2. So if we're in the key of C, you can only use it on D minor and play a D minor 6. Here's how you play it. That's the root 6 version. Then the root 5 version looks like this. Really good for creating a Dorian sound, so maybe take that into account next time you're using the Dorian mode. The next chord is the minor 7 chord. You can use it chord 2, chord 3 or chord 6 in your key. So let's take a look at how to play it. Root 6, root 5, and root 4. Let's take a look at the minor 9 chord now. The minor 9 chord, as I said, very, very characteristic for neo soul, R&B. These are the main chords you're going to want to use 9th chord. Very, very important one to learn. So let's take a look at how to play the minor 9, root 6, and then root 5, which is the voicing that I like to use the most. You can use your minor 9 chord on chord 2 or chord 6 in your key. It doesn't work for chord 3, unfortunately. Now let's take a look at the next chord. The next chord is the minor 11 chord. You can use this on chord 2, chord 3, and chord 6. Technically, chord 3, a minor 11 chord, doesn't work, but that's because of the 9th. It would actually be a flat 9th, but the shapes I'm showing you don't actually include the 9th. So you can use this on chord 3, okay? So you can use this on chord 2, chord 3, and chord 6. Just be careful, the minor 11 chord technically doesn't work over chord 3, I've just dropped my pick, but it does work if you're using this particular voicing. Root on the 6th, that's how you play it, and then root on the 5. Very nice, spicy voicing. I really like using this one. Then we've got the minor 7 flat 9 chord. Now this is a very dissonant sounding one, but it is quite nice if you can use it here and there. So this chord only works on chord 3 of your key, okay? So in the key of C, you can only use it on E minor. You play an E minor 7 flat 9. So let's take a look at how to play this particular shape. Root 6, and then root 5. So those are all of the minor chords. Now let's take a look at dominant chords. Dominant chords are really massively important to know. You want to be able to play all these different types of dominant chords. There's alter dominant chords too, and you can use them as secondary dominants, tritone substitutions. The purpose of dominant chords is to create lots of tension in your chord progression. It really jazzes things up. I really go into huge amounts of detail on how you can use dominant chords to create awesome, awesome chord progressions in my book, Chord Charisma. So go check that out. But typically, all these dominant chords you can use on chord 5 of your key. And you can use them to play secondary dominants if you know what secondary dominants are as well. Most of these shapes also work for tritone substitutions if you know what tritone substitutions are as well. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, the dominant 7th chord. Let's take a look at how to play the root 6, root 5, root 4. Root 6, root 5, and then root 4. So that's the dominant 7th chord. Dominant 9 chord now. This is quite a nice one. So root 6, and then root 5. Dominant 11. Dominant 11 is a really good one for neo soul. Just has that vibe to it. You hear it a lot in lots of songs, okay? So dominant 11, this is how you play it. That's the root 6, root 5 now. Okay, now as I said, just a reminder, these all work on chord 5 and they resolve back onto chord 1. You want to play these chords and resolve them down a fifth. So if you're playing an E7 or any E dominant chord, what's a fifth below E? A. You want to resolve it down to an A chord, okay? So that was the dominant 11 chord. Let's take a look at the dominant 13 chord now. Root 6. And then root 5. Now let's dive into altered dominant chords. On their own, they might sound a little bit dissonant, a little bit too spicy maybe, but trust me, they really do work in context of a chord progression. So let's take a look at the first one, which is the dominant 7 sharp 11 chord, root 6. Then root 5 looks like this. Bit of a trickier shape on the 5th string. Now let's take a look at one of my favorite ones, the dominant 7 sharp 5, root 6. And then root 5. Now we've got the dominant 7 flat 9. This is another one of those chords. You can check a video out I've done on the dominant 7 flat 9. I go into a lot of detail there, but again, I've done an entire section of my book on this one chord because there's so much you can do with this chord. So as I've said, you can use it as the 5 chord in your key, but there is so much more to it. So take a look at the video or grab my book and you'll learn more about it and you'll be blown away with what you can do with this chord, okay? So dominant 7 flat 9, root 6, and then dominant 7 flat 9, root 5. Very spicy chord. Then we've got the dominant 7 sharp 9 chord, root 6, root 5, then the dominant 7 sharp 5 sharp 9 chord. Really, really cool voicing. Okay, sometimes we take away the low E string and just play these 4 notes. And you can create cool melodies on the top of it. So that is another one I'd really highly suggest checking out. I've done another video on this particular chord and how to use it, so check it out if it interests you. So those are all of our dominant chords. Now let's take a look at sus chords. So we're going to take a look at suspended 2nd chord first. Here's how you play it with the root on the 5th string. The root on the 6th string, there's no real easy or convenient shapes that I've found, but if you know any, let me know in the comments, but I don't think it's very easy to play a sus2 chord with the root on the 6th string. So root on the 5th string, and then root on the 4th string. Now let's take a look at the sus4 chord, and then root 5. Now I forgot to mention where you could use the sus2 and the sus4 chords. The sus2 chord can be used on chord 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6, and the sus4 chord can be used on chord 1, 2, 5 and 6. They're very good at creating a little bit of tension, just adding some interest into your chord progressions. Let's move on to diminished chords. Diminished chords are some of my favorite chords. They sound dissonant on their own, but when used in the right context, perfection. Okay, so let's take a look at the standard diminished chord. So here's how you would play it with the root note on the low E string, root on the A, and then root on the D. So with diminished chords, what you can do is you can play them a fret below whatever the next chord in your chord progression is. So say our next chord in our chord progression was E minor, a fret below E is D sharp, and you could play a D sharp diminished before the E minor. Really, really great, and it's just so simple. Let's just try it with another chord, C. Okay, a fret below C is B. Play a B diminished before the C. It works amazingly. You can do that with diminished chords, and you can also do it with diminished 7th chords as well. So diminished 7th chords actually probably sound a little bit better using this technique. So let's take a look at how to play with the root note on the 6th string, with the root note on the 5th string, and with the root note on the 4th string. As I said, same technique. Okay. great chord to use in your chord progressions. You can also use diminished 7th chords to change key. I talk about that in my book, so I know I keep plugging my book, but it really is amazing. So check it out. Next diminished chord is the half diminished chord, or the -7 flat 5 chord. So let's take a look at how to play that. Root note on the low E string, root note on the A string, and root note on the D string. So half diminished chords don't work quite as well for that technique I just said. They usually work really well in a minor 2-5 passing. A minor 2-5 passing is when you're playing a minor chord. Before the minor chord, you can play whatever the 2 is, so that is just basically 2 frets higher. Play that as a half diminished chord. Play the 5 as a dominant chord, or one of our altered dominant chords that I showed you earlier, and then into the minor chord. Okay, so really, really nice, okay? So that's how you can use the half diminished chord, as well as it being diatonic to your major key as chord 7. So in the key of C, you could play B half diminished as one of the chords in your key, along with the standard diminished chord as well. Now let's take a look at our final 2 chords. These are augmented chords. So we've got, first of all, the standard augmented chord. Let's take a look at how to play that. Root note on the low E, root note on the A, root note on the D. You can use these chords to replace your 5 chords. So in the key of C, G as our 5 chord. So instead of playing a G7 or a G major, we could play a G augmented chord. And it leads us very nicely into C. Okay, I know that's a different voicing actually. So let me show you that voicing as well. That's another voicing for an augmented chord, okay? There are other ways to use augmented chords, but you know where to find out how to use those, okay? Let's take a look at the augmented 7th chord. The augmented 7th chord is used in the same way, just a little bit spicier. This is how you play it with the root note on the low E string. And then this is how you play it with the root note on the A string. Those are the 30 neo-soul R&B chords for you to start using in your chord progressions. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you can use these voicings in your playing. If you do, and you end up making videos using these chords, please tag me on Instagram. I'm @DavidLovejoy. I'd love to see your ideas. I'd love to see if my videos have helped anyone out. If you enjoyed the video, click like, let me know what you thought in the comments, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And as I said, I've already spoken about my book quite a lot in this video, but you can grab my book down below, Chord Charisma 2.0. It is the perfect chord progression building system. It's gonna show you how to write awesome chord progressions, and then I'm gonna show you advanced, high-level techniques and concepts that you can use to take them to the next level and create things that you never thought were possible. If you're not convinced, you can grab the first 2 chapters for free. Those first 2 chapters are gonna show you how to write a basic chord progression, and then it's gonna show you how to spice those chord progressions up with lots of the chords that I've shown you today, like 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. So if that sounds good to you, head down to the description, grab your copy now. Click here, and I'll see you there. Have a good one.